Two people filing a lawsuit against the state of Kansas over a new law that went into effect just this week. The law requires people to use a bathroom that corresponds with their assigned gender. Now two trans people here in Kansas are suing, arguing that law is unconstitutional. Dylan Domingue joins us with those details. Dylan?
Hey, Rachel, this law doesn't just affect bathroom usage. It also requires people to reflect their assigned sex at birth on driver's licenses and birth certificates. And that law went into effect yesterday with no grace period to correct that information. Now, the bill's supporters say it's designed to protect women and girls, as well as prevent criminals from escaping the law by changing their gender on their driver's license. But opponents say the statistics don't line up. There aren't many instances of this happening. The Kansans who filed the lawsuit are trans men who have chosen to remain anonymous. They say the law is unconstitutional because it immediately went into effect, invalidating their driver's licenses. 12 News spoke with the ACLU Kansas earlier today. They say they're confident they will win the lawsuit, considering they won a similar challenge back in 2023 surrounding a law that also attempted to prohibit Kansans from changing gender markers on driver's licenses.
The ACLU and some very brave plaintiffs had challenged a previous law. The state courts ruled in favor of our plaintiffs that they were being treated unfairly. And so rather than trying to actually treat people fairly, the state legislature and Attorney General Chris Kobach decided to go back to the well and to make things worse.
Now, ACLU Kansas says the bill violates trans people's protected rights to due process and freedom of speech under the Kansas Constitution. Rachel?